I've spent the last 3 years of my life in the Matrix. That means aimlessly churning away like a cog in the corporate machine, working for 3% raises, happy hours, Friday night bars, fake corporate friends who throw me under the bus the first chance they get, marriage that I don't really know if I want, kids that I don't know if I really want, and the house that I'll never really own. I'm reminded of that episode of SpongeBob where Squidward moves to that utopia. At first, life was everything he wanted, everything he could ask for, bike rides, community. But as time went on, life eventually grew stale and draining. He eventually realized that the life he thought he wanted wasn't it. Don't get me wrong, being a young salaried worker is freaking awesome in many regards. With the state of the job market right now, having stable income is truly such a blessing. But from firsthand experience, going to work and hearing about Joe Schmo's life sounded like personal hell to me. 40 years of team bonding events and happy hours, a 30-year, $600,000 mortgage in a cookie cutter suburbia, draining all of his hard earned money on his spoiled, ungrateful children, and then like maybe one vacation a year to Florida. I was thinking about this to myself recently. I spent the first 1 or 2 years kind of just soaking in this utopia, being a player in the Matrix, enjoying being a sheep in the crowd. But I think that I quickly realized that I couldn't sustain doing that for years. I couldn't, how many football games could I go to? How many happy hours could I attend pretending like I had something new to talk about each time? Right? It all grew so stale. Like I didn't even want to go out anymore. I didn't even want to see these corporate friends anymore because I didn't trust these people. I started questioning a lot of those temporary happinesses that to me, they just seemed artificial all around. Looking at Joe Schmo's life, I was like, there is absolutely no shot I'm letting myself end up like this. I cannot imagine being 50, 60 years old and not even owning my life. That white collar utopian life sounded like a fate worse than death. I'm not even exaggerating that. I would ask myself all the time, what would I rather have? Would I rather have what Joe Schmo had and be coming towards the end of my life, stuck here still? Or would I rather be like dead? And honestly, like I think I'd rather be dead than live that kind of life. The idea of the rest of my life looking like that literally sent me into a panic. I felt it down my spine, and it literally felt like I was looking through a tunnel, an endless tunnel, and there was no light at the end. Just this mindset that I was developing, like it felt like shackles around my ankles. It sounded like I had signed my life away to a fate that I never asked for. What really started this mentality where I was questioning the matrix I was in, the box in the world that I was living in, was mainly because immediately following college, I had a difficult time establishing what my why was, right? What was my purpose? Why was I doing what I was doing? What exactly was I working for? Every day, I got up and I went to work before I had even acknowledged the fact that I was alive and breathing. I'm talking like alarm at 6:30, face washed, teeth brushed, coffee made, out the door at 7, 20, 30-minute car ride to work, park the car, go into the office, sit down at my desk. And that's when I start, clocking the fact that, hey, I'm alive, I'm breathing. If even that, sometimes on busy days, I'm just straight to work and I don't even realize what I'm doing. Additionally, in the beginning, I hopped around a lot of different friend groups. I moved to a new city following college to begin my career. And in the beginning, I was kind of scrambling to just find friends. I hung out with a lot of random people, some of which I got along with, some of which I didn't, and some of which I had to kind of falsify my interests and my personality to kind of fit in. Right? I was just searching for a place where I belonged. I think it's human nature to want to belong for the most part. I went out to happy hours, local football games with these people, and like, when the hell have I ever enjoyed day drinking or sitting out in the sun watching grown men play with balls for hours? I was being an absolute sheep this whole time, and I kind of knew it. But at the same time, I was like, well, this is just what young adults entering their career do. This is just what we do. This is what the tech bros do, right? I was trying to fit into that young adult corporate lifestyle because that's just what people at my age did. That's what social media pushed. That's what the environment around me pushed. Everyone around me was seemingly into these things. So in my head, if I do it enough, maybe I'll eventually enjoy it and this will be the meaning of my life. I think that this was the first problem. because I knew deep down, right, that I was never going to enjoy these things, that I was never going to enjoy this life. That was the problem. I was shooting without aiming. I was throwing mud at the wall, hoping it would stick solely based on what people around me did, right? But the older you get, the more you realize that you cannot be using other people as a reference for your life. Not only are you wildly different, but you have wildly different backgrounds at some point. Nobody has an identical upbringing. Questioning the things around me was the first step. But even more than that, and I would argue even more important, is actually challenging these things. Only you can advocate for yourself. But you have to have the balls and the mentality to fight that system around you. Because I don't care who you are, man, woman, young, old, your life is going to be surrounded by some sort of pressure, whether intentional or just inherent, right? It could be peer pressure from your family, from people that lived in a different time than you and are pushing you to do things based on what their generations did. Or it can simply be the pressures of FOMO. You watch your friends, you watch people around you in your city or in your town all doing certain things, you're gonna be like, why the hell am I the one not doing it, right? A lot of people fall into this trap. They see their friends having kids, they see their friends getting married, combine that with, maybe pressure from mom and dad to, hey, where are my grandkids, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, you're married. And then next step, boom, you have kids. But you never really sat down to ask yourself if that was something that you wanted. I think that most people are introspective enough, and maybe I'm overestimating people here, but I think that most people are introspective enough to know when they are lying to themselves, right? You can typically feel the lie leave your mouth, and you have this empty feeling in your chest after you just said something that you don't really believe. My lesson here is really just question everything, right? And definitely question yourself. Are the goals that you have in life truly, truly yours? Is this job truly what you want to be doing for the rest of your life? Is marriage something that you want deep down, or is that what society is pressuring you to do? Do you really want two kids, a boy and a girl? Do you really want to spend money on them, send them off to college, or is that just what you're supposed to do? Growing up made me realize that success is subjective. When you're a kid, adults, teachers, any form of adult influence in your life talks about success like it's just this globally defined bar. And every kid is aiming for the same kind of success. But what they don't teach you is that success is something that you have to define. Nobody can define it for you. Uncle Sam and the government wants your success to probably look like a fat mortgage, marriage, kids, and a corporate job, and they want you to work till the age of 65, 67, whatever the retirement age is now. And they're hoping that you die before then so that they can soak up all the money that you worked for in your entire life. Everybody in my life, personally, had expectations for me. Mom wanted me to climb the corporate ladder and become a senior director of a bunch of keyword corporate jargon words. Dad wanted me to get married and start a family for the sake of what? Carrying his name. It took years of having hard talks with myself, fighting off the swarm of expectations, definitely fighting off FOMO. I think that was difficult for me personally, and a ton of trial and error. But, for the first time, it feels like I finally found a target. But you need to have the balls to go and do that. Push yourself out of the comfort zone and look everybody around you in the face and say, I don't want what you want for me. Question everything. As trivial, as foundational as you think it is, question it and ask yourself, is that what you want? I mentioned before that I feel like I'm finally able to aim now, that I have a target, I have a goal in sight. The light at the end of the tunnel is coming back. For me, that light is not a tangible thing. It's not real. It's not like a materialistic thing. It's not a Maybach. It's more than just freedom as well. I think a lot of people strive for freedom, but it's truly living the valuable life that I feel like I was gifted here on earth. I know that sounds cliche, but hear me out. Father Time will catch up to all of us. When he does, I will not care about missing 9 a.m. stand up at work. I will not care about the fact that I never got to finish painting the house that the government would take on me if I ever defaulted on property tax. What I care the most about personally, and this could very easily be different for you, is missing out on my best friend's wedding, or not taking time off to visit Southeast Asia, or just being too afraid to go solo camping. My fear personally is not living life to the fullest, not being ballsy enough or bold enough to go see the world, to take risks that allow me to free myself from society. I can get laid off at any time. I know that. The US economy can collapse and all the money I've ever made can become worthless tomorrow. Who knows? The government could hike property tax to oblivion, price me out, which it already seems like they're trying to do that, and take back the home that I supposedly quote unquote own. This is a completely different story, but like, I don't even want to own a house. I don't want to get married. I don't think the government should get involved in my love life. And I don't really think I want kids. You know, as selfish as it sounds, I don't think I'd be a good parent. I don't think I have the mentality for it. I think I'm maybe a little too selfish on that front. But I recognize that now, and I think it'd be a lot more selfish if I just did all these things because someone told me to, knowing damn well that I wasn't the person or I wasn't fit for it. I believe that the only thing in life that you truly own are your experiences. I began cutting all my ties, or at least most of my ties, to the materialistic things in my life. I stopped buying watches. I stopped buying expensive things. I stopped aiming to get expensive cars. I stopped wanting to get a house. You know, I didn't want my value and my life work to be coupled with things that I could lose, things that could devalue tomorrow. No matter what happens with the US economy, with the dollars in my pocket, the fact that I went to Southeast Asia, the fact that I went to Switzerland, the fact that I went to all these places, went sandboarding, went parasailing, went scuba diving, did all these things, the fact, like, nobody can take that away from you, right? It's the equivalent of being a pro athlete and you become a champion. No matter how many times you get knocked the hell out after you became champion, you were champion at some point. I became infatuated with the idea of spontaneously and fearlessly experiencing what the world has to offer. No matter how fearful I might be or how nerve wracking it could be to kind of throw yourself into the deep end, I really just wanted to collect as many memories as I could before I die. I want to die with those memories. I want to take them with me to wherever I get sent, once I stop breathing here. And I became very focused on literally painting the life that I wanted. Do you remember how colorful life was as a kid? It felt like we had that vivid filter kind of just placed over our eyes, and everything felt like sunshine and rainbows. For the first time since then, I felt like the color returned and splashed onto what had become a very gray and saturated life. I think the grayness really came from the fact that I was not living the life that I wanted, right? And that the color was quite literally an analogy for the optimism that I had for my own life. Once I started realizing that I can take control of this, this doesn't have to be what I don't want it to be. I don't have to buy that house if I don't want to. I don't got to get married if I don't want to. I don't need to be a corporate slave if I don't want to, right? Sometimes the answer may seem obvious. It seemed like that answer was always there. But for a lot of people, that's not a reality. They get tied into these situations where they're tied down by materialism, where they're tied down by their financials, or they've already subjected themselves to a life that they never really wanted, and now they're shackled to a life that they don't want. Now they have to work that corporate job to put food on the table, right? The circumstances change, but I think that if what you're doing and all the decisions you made were made from a place of this is what I really want, your life shouldn't lose color. There's an analogy that I've been using a lot. I call it the painting on the canvas. To me, money doesn't directly buy happiness. Everyone says that, but nobody explains why. Think of your life as a blank canvas. For most people, it's blank. For some people, there's something on that canvas already. Regardless, everybody has some canvas in front of them. Money is the resource that allows you to buy fancy paintbrushes, different shades of colors, and all these fancy materials and paint that you can use to paint your canvas. But what I'll tell you is that nobody teaches you how to paint that canvas. To me, this explains why a lot of millionaires and billionaires end up feeling lost in life and they end up trying to buy their happiness, but they can't find it. Because it doesn't matter how many vials of paint you buy, how many paintbrushes you have. If you've never learned how to paint your canvas in a way that you create something that's beautiful to you, you're going to end your life with all this shit, but nothing on your painting. Some people only need a few vials of paint, one paintbrush, and they can paint something that they're truly happy with. That's an analogy for money. You don't necessarily need money to be happy. It's all subjective. Everyone's interpretation of what a beautiful painting is depends. Some people need expensive paints. Some people need a lot of paint. Some people need one color. It depends on you, but it's your responsibility to use your life as a vessel to learn how to paint that canvas. Because at the end of it all, when Father Time comes and collects you, your goal is to leave this earth with the most beautiful painting to you. That's what you leave the earth with. That's what you came in with. You came in with a blank canvas and you leave with your painting. To sum it all up and to sum up that analogy, all I'm really trying to say is that feeling hopeless in life, feeling like your life has lost all that color, I think that the first step that you should turn to is take a look at everything that you're doing, everything that you're working for, what your day to day looks like, and figure out if that is truly what you want out of your life. You need a reason. You need to know why you're doing what you're doing. And if that doesn't align with your goals, you need to have the balls to take risks and force yourself into positions where you are not wasting time pursuing goals that are not yours. Stop chasing your mom's goals. Stop chasing your dad's goals. Stop chasing family goals. Stop chasing what the US government tells you should do, and definitely stop chasing what people around you are doing for the sake of just doing that, right? I'm not saying don't work a corporate job. I'm not saying don't get married or have kids. If that's what you want, or if that is part of your plan to start living that happy life, do what you need to do. I'm in corporate as well. I see it as a vessel to get me to a position where I can start, solely living this life for me. But like I said, like when I woke up and realized that I don't have to work corporate for the rest of my life, nor do I need to get married or have kids. When I really saw that the only thing stopping me from traveling the world and doing spontaneous things or traditionally risky things was my own hand. Oh my God, like it was crazy. It was so simple and it was right in front of my eyes this whole time. All I literally had to do was want my dreams bad enough and be willing to take certain risks and say no to the dreams that simply weren't mine.